But basically what's over there, and I'm glad you're on, Scott, because I know you've dealt with commercial folks too, so this is a great thing that we can post up for people that might be running in the commercial and stuff like that. And along with the information that we got from David Levine on Facebook the other day, I appreciate the honesty in them, and like Rob had told us, and I know we're waiting to find out the aspects going in this weekend and stuff like that. But it's refreshing to know, instead of company, how companies hide stuff, where we're having financial things and this and that. It's refreshing to know that he came forward and told us, was honest. He said, look, this is where we were at, honest to goodness,
Yeah, and and it's also just, it's obviously something out of his control.
Yeah.
If you have someone committing to an investment and then they don't end up coming through, I don't blame the guy personally for what's happened. And like Rob said, there might be people out there who joined Crew thinking they were going to become an overnight millionaire, and maybe they thought they're going to move on. If that's the way they want to think about it, they can. But obviously, I'm still in it for the reason that Rob puts out there, which is just
right.
It's more than just making money. We're trying to make money the right way. We're trying to put the money in the right people's hands. That's one thing I always have when I can get into a debate with someone about, solar companies, the big dog solar cities, small installers, whatever. And I can just tell them, listen, as a co-op, I just feel so much more comfortable to know that, we're not paying some big building full of people somewhere to sit around and my friends would think, shut up. That's what corporations like to do. So yeah, that's, I appreciate his honesty.
And and that's like Rob stated back, when this really started in 2015, and Jeromy and I have known him a long time, as and a lot of folks know. But the thing is, his principles are still the same. It's what's doing right for the customers and what's doing right to help the country and people out there that have utility bills, and where can we go to help the country? Where can we go to help each other? And that's the one thing that I really look at and I appreciate, and that's why I'm still here. A lot of people have gotten out. I understand if you lose some sales and through changes and stuff like that, but like he said, if you're not ready, take a leeway or whatever he said, or don't come in later or something like that. When we go from where we're from, that hacking away with machetes, going through the woods and the bushes and starting the trail, and then you get them, like here in Texas, they call them FM, farm to market roads, where they go from the trail to where they could start bringing the mules, and the wagons and stuff like that. And then you start getting the one lane little highway things. Then you got the asphalt roads, and you can get out and wait, and then come back in and move forward when everything's running your thing. But the process that Jeromy and I have realized is that you're still learning as we go along. We know so much more from when we were dealing with Dividend, dealing through some other companies and stuff, and now with GeoStellar and the software that they have and what's setting up. And they've run into some kinks themselves. So that's something that, everybody out there, if you sit and watch this video, you need to understand this is a building process. It's continually to build. There's frustrations, believe me, both on all parts. There's frustrations on your end. There's frustrations, from Rob, from David and them. But like I said, a lot of stuff is out of everybody's hands. We need to just understand that we are taking a step-by-step process to get to the point that where someone comes in, they click a button, push the stuff that's in, it's done. People are financed, solar's going on, and it's over. And that's the aspect that we're looking at. But one of the things I had, one of the ladies yesterday in my group, Karen, and she contacted me and was asking me that she's got a couple people up there in New York, and she's heading back from there right now. She's traveling. And she asked in a sense, how do you approach business owners and that dealing with commercial and stuff like that? And I asked her, I said, well, she goes, do you have a script or anything? And I said, not really. I said, I try to become personal with them as I get in. I said, and I got to looking in my folders, and I came across a phone script, or a phone script and in-person script to walk in, and I'll pop that up on the screen here. But as you know, Scott, you've gone in and you've dealt with them and stuff like that, and your perspective on this would be helpful too. Is that dealing with people, one thing you need to understand, and the most important thing is when you begin talking with the people, is when you ask them their name, stop and listen to their name. So you can converse with them on their first name basis when you begin talking with them. Or even the receptionist that you may run into, or that if you call to try and set up an appointment with who handles the utilities and stuff, get that person's name. Because when you then turn around and talk to them, and not just so-and-so or whatever, but when you refer to them by their first name, it lets them know that you are really listening and concerned with who they are, what they do, the company they're with. But when people realize that you've actually listened and you know their name, and a lot of times I'll write them down when I call customer service places, when I'm trying to get something done with bills or anything else, trying to get help with something, I have a pad and paper just like this. A pad and pen, and I write that person's name down so I can refer to them by their name, and then when I'm done, I can say thank you. And, excuse me. And that becomes a personal aspect to you. And I think I've got this up, and I just wanted to show. And Scott, I'm going to go through this, and then I'd like to get your input on it, because each situation is different, and that's something that you need to understand. But this is just a basic thing. Say you call up, or say you walk in. Right here it says hello. Person's name. A lot of times the receptionist or even the business owner might not have his name right there, maybe in his office, but the person that if you call them or you walk in, the receptionist, hello, name that, answered the phone or whatever, because usually they tell you, hello, this is so-and-so, may I help you? And one of the most important things is, and I don't have it right here, I've got it down farther here, but write that receptionist's name down. Or if you're standing there, make a mental note of it, or if they have their sign right there, so you can personally talk to them one-on-one. They may ask you, how may I direct your call? Or if you're in person, how may I help you? And one thing I put right here, and I'm pretty sure that you do this too, Scott, and I know I do. But when you try and do some research on the company before you go in, if you don't know, do a little bit of research, find out a little information about them, because then that helps you when you begin talking to them. You can go to Google, LinkedIn, Facebook. You can learn a lot about your customers that way. What I've got down here is who is in charge of handling the company utility accounts, such as outgoing utility payments or accounts payable. And they might go, well, that's so-and-so. Great. And that's where their name right here, and like here, I've got down here, write it down. That should be up in here, and I'll change that. This is great. Is so-and-so available, or may I speak with, Jim? Or may I speak with Scott? Right here, since we got, may I ask who's calling? Sure. And I've got down B up B. My name is Lane Johnson. I'm with ETX Solar. And then right now, wait for them to respond. Okay, hold please. And then right here, this is the person that's in charge of the accounts, or whoever, or the owner, or whatever. You can ask for the receptionist. You can ask if the owner's in, or accounts, depending on the size of the company or whatever like that. And that's something that's a judgment call on each business, everybody, that you have to look at. Right here, it said, okay, hello, this is so-and-so. This is Scott. How may I help you? Very important. Like I said, write this down. because this is information that this is a person you're going to be in contact with in the future as this moves forward. Hello, Scott. I am Lane Johnson with ETX Solar. Scott, the receptionist, this is here, if you're right there, Jeromy told me you're in charge of the company utility billing. And what you do is you need to learn in certain spots to wait for an answer. Let them begin to interact with you. And they say, yes, that is correct. How can I help you? He says, I'm reaching out to local business owners to help them save money on their utility expenses. In what way, or we are not interested? You're going to get one of those two. You're going to get okay or not. And it says, I understand you receive, sales calls. That could be sales calls in person or on the phone every day. Yes, I do. And they're going to tell you that. I don't have time to talk. And you can say, I understand, Scott. All I'm trying to do is help you and let's say Jim's Clothing. Save money on your utility bill that you're already spending monthly. Scott, I understand. Really, I do. I just asked for the opportunity to show you how to save on what you're already spending on your monthly utility bill. And that's capitalized right here, folks, is already spending. At no charge to you. That should be out of there right now because that can be at no charge to you right now for the pre-assessment, but eventually, if they move forward with the stuff, we don't want to give the impression that it's not going to cost them anything at all, but they're already spending something. But so I put that in there and wait for an answer. And they could say, well, okay, what do you mean? And it's, when can I show Jim's Clothing how to save on your monthly recurring utility bill and potentially reduce it and eventually eliminate this monthly bill? Would this be of interest to you? And they say, well, how do we do this? By replacing your monthly utility rental bill that Jim's Clothing spends from renting your power to owning your power. Well, how much? That's a great thing you're already paying for. What do you mean? And it says, we take your current monthly bill and change you from renting your power to producing and owning your power by going solar. And they go, okay. Scott's like, okay, what do we need to do? Well, Scott, I need the last 12 months bills. If you, and I haven't put it in here, I'm kind of going, if you have them available, I will run a free preliminary pre-assessment for Jim's Clothing. Okay, do you currently have access to them? And you could say, you could put right here, Jim, or Scott, do you currently have access to them? Well, yes, I have access to them. Great. Send the bills to my email, or if you're in person, you could say, could you print them out for me? Or, you want to try and get them while you're in there in person. Because they might not email them to you, and they say, sure, let me print them out, is what they might say, or say, I will send an email, and you can give them a business card and give them the commercial brochure flyer. But it's best if you can get them and walk out of that place right then with them. I will send this information to designers and engineers, and I will get back to you, Scott, as soon as it's done, and I will email you the pre-assessment proposal when I get it back from the engineers and designers. I will call you when I send it to you so we could set a time to go over the savings with you and answer any questions you have. Thank you, Scott, for your time and interest in how to save Jim's Clothing on your monthly utility bill. Have a wonderful day, Scott. Okay. What'd you think of that? Oh, I didn't have it up on the share screen, did I?
No, you didn't, but we heard you just fine.
Okay. I clicked it up. I'm like, man, I didn't even have it on the share screen. Okay.
It's hard, trying to do commercial from a script, like you said,
Yeah.
Especially trying to
Well,
work commercial business, it's a very personal thing.
Mm-hmm.
Definitely the whole name is key. Making them feel like they're important. I have the luck of having some experience of working on the other end. I worked a good part of my career as a purchasing director for a large organization.
Oh, cool.
So I was the one actually handling all the incoming sales calls,
Neat.
trying to set up with vendors and accounts, contracts, this and that. And yeah, you're right. I mean, I barely had time. I barely had time to talk to people.
Right.
I honestly could tell you that if you stopped by and you caught me versus catching me on the phone, you would have much more of a chance to catch my attention, where I'm actually going to give you 10 minutes of my time.
Right.
Although the odd thing is, I have to say, I have not really done cold prospecting with commercial.
Right.
And yet started so much commercial interest, and I've started many projects. I'm so excited. I was just approached recently by the township I grew up in, is 10 miles south of here, called Greenville, Pennsylvania. And it's a smaller town. It maybe has a population of about 5,000 people. And there's an old train manufacturing plant that used to sit right in the middle of town. It was the hub. And it eventually went out of business and sat there and rotted and ruined. And they finally got the buildings torn down, but it's a brownfield. They can't build buildings there, commercial or residential, because of what they dumped into the ground there.
Mm-hmm.
So the few representatives from the Chamber of Commerce had contacted me, hearing that I had done solar, and wanted me to help them get a proposal for that to turn it into a solar farm.
Yeah.
And at the same time, the person who was also reaching out to me was good friends with the president of a local college, Teal College, and they're interested in the project as well. I guess the whole point is just, for one, in solar, being that it's such a new thing in so many areas, you can never stop. I'd like to say, especially on the Facebook end, I don't hound people. I don't harass people.
Mm-hmm.
But I like to do the occasional, Facebook post about something to do with solar, renewable energy or something. And, just so people are aware that I'm talking about it. I do solar. I'm here for solar. But, it's amazing when you start to do some deep networking amongst the people, how you'll find that people that own their own business, that are, friends, or, are part of a family-owned business, or whatever the case may be. And those are the people that I reach out to. Maybe someone that I knew 20 years ago growing up, and I know they own a business now. Yeah, I'll reach out to them out of the blue, Hey, like you said, I try to approach it more. Like my initial contact with someone is simply, can I come in and talk to you about it? I'm working in the solar industry.
Right.
It's amazing that in this area, most business owners aren't aware that you can save money in most cases from day one. Your return on investment is huge. Your payback is very quick. I'd like to just, go over a little bit of those details with you. I only need 10 minutes of your time. I can come in. When I show up, I'll have a nice folder made up with the crew label on it and some commercial flyers. And then, and like you said, Lane, too, while you're there, it's important to try and get the bills while you're there.
Right.
Reiterate to them, this is no obligation. This is no cost to you.
Right.
I'm on your side. I work for you. I just want to show you the numbers and show you what's possible. From there, we go from wherever it goes. But yeah, getting the bill there is very important. But the only thing different, I would say, from your script is that when I don't tell them I'm going to send it to them once it's ready.
Yeah,
I tell them to bring it to them. You know?
And that's something that I was going to revise there too, and I was going to mention that is exactly what you're saying. Say, hey, when I get this done, I'll call you to set, would be good, set up an appointment to come back and show it to you. Exactly, because you want to be there in person.
Right.
The only reason I said on the aspect of I'll send it to you is if you're dealing with some place that's not close to you.
Sure.
That's that only aspect. But I 100% agree with you there, is to get back in person in front with them. And one thing that Karen was talking about last night, and about a couple of people she's dealing with, not the commercial one, but some of the partners and crew and stuff, is she goes, I'm afraid they're putting too much information out there. One thing you need to do is when you talk to the person and you're one-on-one right there and you talk to them and you bring some information to them as a question or information, learn to shut up for a while and see what their feedback is.
And it's okay to let them know, a lot of times people are worried because, oh crap, they're going to ask me a question that I don't know the answer to.
Right.
If a business owner, someone comes at you, well, tell me about the insurance. How does the insurance work with my commercial insurance policy?
Right.
Listen, that's a very great question. Understand, all I'm here to do is help you figure this out. I don't know that for you, but I would be glad to look into it for you and find out who do you do your insurance with.
Exactly.
Maybe I can get a call and find out for you. Whatever you can do to help them. But yeah, it's key to not stress or worry about whether or not you know everything. You don't have to.
No.
And when you get to that point where you've built a proposal and you go back to someone to present it, another thing, it's just so important to stress. Listen, I'm not obligating you to anything. This is a non-binding agreement. I'm asking you to sign.
Yes.
All this does is lets me narrow down the numbers, get the actual bids, put the project together, and have some finite numbers to show you. This proposal is great and all, but we're going to try and do a lot better than what this proposal says.
Exactly.
But we won't know that until we get the bids together. And again, no cost to you. I will help arrange everything, and I will take the stress off your back. It's not something you'll need to be concerned with, except for looking at the information once it's presented to you.
Yeah, it's like a job that I have with a guy up here in Northeast Texas area, just north of me. The business he has is he's still waiting, dealing with U.S. grants and stuff. But the thing is, when I went up there and climbed on the roof with the installer, that looked at it and helped him measure it with a measuring tape and stuff like that, he had the owner had some questions that he was wanting to build some kind of thing on top of it. He's got I think it's an 80 by 100 building or something like this. It's really big, but he's wanting to put some kind of like gazebo type thing up there and stuff, to where if he wants to have, because the portion of the building, he lived in the upper portion. It was his residence, the lower portion. It's set up for four other separate businesses that he can rent out to. But what he wanted, when I got up there with the installer and we got to measuring stuff, and I said, hey, he wants this right here, and the original design that we have, that we got from Solar Site Design and stuff like that, and he brought in the question, and the installer looked at it and said, oh yeah, we can move this and we can do that and we can do this. And that's where you brought up, Scott. Once you get the installer out there and look at it, and there was still no obligation on the business owner's part. It's that the installer got out there, like you said, looked at stuff, listened to the business owner, and what happened was, I said, yeah, we can make this work. We can move this here, and we can still keep it at the price. We might even be able to take a few panels off lower, and like you said, there's no obligation to the business owner or the company. What we're trying to do is show you where we can help you save the money. You're spending this money.
The fact too is that if you can get that far and you let them sign that agreement, let you come in with the proposals and the bids, the fact of the matter is a lot of those installers will sell themselves.
Yes.
Your chances, that's the point you want to get to, because at that point, it becomes a lot less pressure off your back to do the selling and just more the orchestrating, and just let the selling take place.
Right.
It's hard to get to that point. I'm not going to, Yeah, I've yet to close the commercial deal. I'm not going to act like I'm the professional at it, but I can just tell you what I've learned through experience is that, it's tough to get to that point. But then, yes, once you get there and you get the installers in, let them talk to the owners. They're going to help, get rid of their fears, concerns that they have, and and let they're the true experts. Let them handle the hard, more complicated questions.
Yeah, and that installer answered the questions for this business owner. And the thing is he came back and we said yes, and he liked it and everything like that. And he even he was going for a USDA grant because he was in a smaller city, and USDA grant for businesses, they could get them, and that's free money back to him. The thing is the installer filled out the paperwork, sent it back to him, and he sent stuff in. Thing is, he's getting approved for it, but what he found out later on, because the business the building that he owned is where he rented out for the Chamber of Commerce people to meet there for the city. And they were talking about putting together an incentive package because they liked the idea that because he told them what he was, in some of the meetings that he was in with them, that he was looking to put solar on the building. And he goes, I'm trying to get a USDA grant, and, I got from the proposal he had, depreciation and ITC credit. And he goes, I wish we had some local incentives. Well, in one of the meetings, they started talking and said, we might be able to put something together for local incentives. So,
hey, that's great. Yeah, places will do that if they're that interested. You know.
And so I got through the free assessment. The installer sent an USDA grant in, and then he come back and said, well, they probably won't have it set up until going into next January, this next coming January, local incentives. So I want to wait, which I don't blame him. If he gets the USDA grant, which I think he was looking at 25% of the overall cost, then he gets the ITC credit, and then he gets the depreciation. And if the local city comes in, Chamber of Commerce comes in, or the city council, comes in, and they say, hey, we think we can do something for you here. If they give them, what, $1 per watt or something, I don't know, and then local incentives. I mean, pretty much he wasn't looking at paying anything as is now. But if they come in with a local city incentive, it probably isn't going to cost them anything. Well, the aspect of it is, like I mentioned last week, is when I was out there, the next business next door to us, it's like a restaurant bar, pretty big place, and it's not a very big town. So he had actually talked to the business owner there, and said, I'd really like to see the information that you got on your free proposals, what he called it, and see where we're at. And he goes, you know what? I'm interested in putting them on my place. He goes, but he explained, the customer I was dealing with, it explained to him about the local city incentives that they might be looking at. So he's kind of on hold. He wants to see what happens. But if it goes through, then all the other cities or businesses there that have been in the city council meetings, and some of those members are interested in what he's looking to do, and it will just flourish from there.
It'll create a lot of talk. One thing I wanted to mention in regards to that, because you will get a lot of that where, the I want to wait, I want to see. The USDA grant is a great grant, and it's available in most parts of the country as long as you're in a rural community. And those requirements are pretty non-stringent. Like I mean, if you have a population, you're allowed to have like up to 20,000 people or less in your community, and you're considered a rural community, and then you're eligible to apply for this grant. But no, a good thing you can tell someone who may say something like that is, listen, I understand there's lots of possible grants out there that are available.
Right.
Installers that we bring in to bid are actually experts at applying for those grants and will help you apply for those grants. And two, those grants are almost all of them are set at a cap and are on a first come first serve basis.
Right.
And when they're gone. So if you don't get in and begin the process and at least start applying now, you may miss out on getting it all together. Now, the most important thing to stress is that I'm going to show you the numbers without any of these grants.
Right.
Still making out like a bandit.
Right.
So the grants, the local incentives, that's just icing on the cake. And I hope I can get you qualified for every one of those. But in the meantime, I can still save you money with or without them. Why not at least start proceeding, and we will try and work with the installer to get you every available incentive that we can find for you.
Yeah.
You know, because that's people say, you know, they'll come up with any reason.
No, I know. Yeah.
Wait, kick that can down the road a little bit, and you know, try and.
The amazing thing is he didn't reach out for the USDA grant. One of the local folks here, or in charge of this region, sent an email out to him about this because they had not, a lot of businesses do not know about it. And she said, we have this option available if you're interested, you know, for renewable, not only renewable energy, but, you know, upgrade, you know.
Yeah, those are available for a lot of other things, not just solar installation.
And he said, well, she reached out to me, and says, I have this funding available.
Anybody who's interested in getting involved in commercial solar in general, a good thing to do is look into your local county USDA office. Contact them. I contacted a gentleman from the local office here. They're more than willing to help you. They gave me nice brochures and pamphlets that I can give to my commercial customers that detail the qualifications and how much they can apply for and get. It's neat. They're usually very helpful. So if you're looking to get into that, look into it, because most areas there is a USDA option out there, and you do usually have a local office by county. Right. And a lot of times people there that are willing to help you or help that business owner better understand the program.
Well, it's like she said, she told him, we have this money, and if we don't use it, it doesn't get transferred over to next year. I think they just lose it. So they try and get it out there to help businesses.
Right, and that amount goes down every year. It's almost like the IT credit, how it's going to start diminishing. You know, that USDA grant gets smaller every year. So there's a lot of them out there that are like that are time sensitive. The sooner you get in there, the better chance you have of getting it.
And it's like you were saying, it's like over in towards the Dallas area, the company Encore, each year they send out a commercial and residential credits that they have, incentives. And as you stated, Scott, along that lines, it's first come, first serve. And usually the way things are happening, we ran into looking at this year and last year, as Jeromy and I, because we try and check into it each year. But usually the residential shoots out of there real quick. It's used up, and the commercials usually goes a little longer. But what it is, a lot of times you get the solar companies out there, these installers, that will wait. They want to get the installs in, but if the incentives are out, they will wait till the first of the year when the new incentives come in, and they usually do their research so they know whether they should then hold off, or if they say, hey, look, there's not going to be incentives next year, or there's going to be some next year, they're out this year, we might wait until next year, but you know, because they're gone this year, you're not going to get as much next year, or it's going to be the same amount. And what happens there is these installers wait, and as soon as the first year comes in, they're putting in these jobs, or they're shoving them in. so they can get this incentives, because that's what these people want, and it helps them get these sales and stuff. And so that's where we're sitting here talking about. And along the commercial aspects, if you're in areas, what you need to do is like Scott had mentioned, and we've said before on here, dealing with the commercial ones, it helps to go and check on what incentives are available and rebates and stuff like that, and to reach out. It's best if you can get out there and do a little research yourself. You know, don't just sit back and expect everything on this end, which a lot of us know information. You can reach out and we can send you information that we've done, but the best thing to do is to try and get out there and do a little research yourself. You know,
absolutely. Lane, one thing that really helped me out with this whole, the Greenville Borough and the solar farm they're looking to put up, that just acquired. Actually, it happened. I will mention, they came to me. I put on my first solar workshop or solar seminar at the Greenville Library. I met the lady there, so she's going to let me do them there about once every other month. So I set up my first solar seminar, and it was nice. I had about 12 people show up from the community, and that's where I had the two representatives from the Chamber of Commerce show up. But so, I got a hold of Jason Loyette. I was all excited. He said, gave me some information, said, yeah, let's dig into this. So I started doing some research, and what I found out was my local utility company, Penn Power, actually had just submitted a request to the Public Utility Commission because they have to meet their solar energy requirements. They have to, you have to, so many alternative energy credits or renewable energy credits.
Yeah, they have to do that. Yeah.
A lot of states have those kind of laws where, every utility company has to buy so much of their power from renewable sources. So, the current utility in my area, Penn Power, is actually begging for any large scale utility size solar projects to approve.
Wow.
So that's just all the more because now, and actually tomorrow I have to reach back out to the borough manager and I can tell him that, hey, by the way, our local area is actually looking for large projects to install because the Public Utility Commission requires our local utilities to buy so much from renewable sources. So we have an excellent chance of getting everything approved, and really now is the time to move forward on this. So it's just one more way to maybe create a little urgency, but it was like you were saying, I would have never known that had I not actually just gone out. I went to Penn Power's website because I knew they were the local utility. I started looking at their press releases, look up, type in SREC and then your state, and just look up and see what kind of solar renewable energy credits are, required in your area. That's another good thing just to know. And, the more you talk about things like that to business owners, the more professional you sound, the more credible you sound, you're talking about.
Right.
It really, really helps.
It's like here where I'm at in Texas, we don't have SRECs. We don't have RECs. I know y'all do up on the east side, but along the aspects of that is I know that SWEPCO, as I've mentioned some of the other utilities, is they put in, which is AEP SWEPCO down here, right where I'm at. There's a couple other co-op utilities around, then Encore out to the west near Dallas. But they put in for a 23% increase. Yeah.
That's crazy.
And the thing is, and I was actually looking for some information yesterday on it, and I got sidetracked, and I've got to get back and look. But from what I gathered, what I saw a couple weeks ago, and I mentioned on one of these things, I think they're approved for 16%, but they're trying to get to 18 since they got turned down for the 23, and they come back and said we can approve you for 16, but now they're coming back trying to get 18. But the strange thing is, Scott, is what I did was I took the last increase we had was in 2010. And this 23% was going into to take effect in 2018. And if the whole thing would have got approved for the 23%, you figure in from 2010, 2018, 8 years, in the 23%, 24%. It came back, I ran the numbers. It came back at 2.9% as an average yearly increase. And that's what GeoStellar and Dividend and all them had as their numbers for my area to show that the numbers that we deal with on our end, when it comes back and says your local average increase is going to be this. And people say, well, it didn't increase, in 2011, 2012 and stuff like that. No, what that 2.9% means is an average yearly increase. And when you take that number of the 23% who have been approved and you divide it from 2010 to 2018, 8 years, it came out to 2.9%. So the software and stuff, they're right on the money. And if they come in at 18%, it'll be a little less this year, but the way they're doing stuff and a lot of, yeah.
Let me mention too about that, something to watch for, those where they come up with that average annual increase is more of a national average. It's not so much by area. So it just so happens that your company would have been requesting, which they figured, hey, we'll get approved if we request this amount, it comes out to that amount.
Mm-hmm.
So the average increase is 2.97%, average across this country. Now in Pennsylvania, in Western Pennsylvania, over the last 2 years, 2 years ago, we were increased by, it was 12.67% in 1 year. And the very next year, they increased us 10 more %. Now they increased us every year. There's never been a time where they haven't increased us out here. So it's not like they're playing catch up,
Yeah.
So here's the thing. And you can't do this with everyone, but if you know that in your local area, it goes up that much. This is what I did to a couple of people that are a little more with it and understand what you're explaining to them is I pulled up the software right there and I said, listen, here's your savings at 3%. This is the national average. Mm-hmm. I said, no, this is what's happened in our area. So let's say over the next 20, 30 years, the average increase in our area is, say it's 6 or 7%.
Right.
Click that up right there on the estimate. Run through your savings projection literally doubles. And, you have to be cautious because you can't overpromise. You can't,
Right.
So, yeah, when I do estimates, I still, even though I know they're going up 10, 12% in my area, I set mine at about 4%, just 1% over what it's already set at. Just because you've got to be safe. Yeah, again, you don't want to overpromise someone, but yeah, that's, some areas are really hitting it hard right now.
Yeah. And that's where talking with you and knowing Jeromy here and us three on here right now, and we'll put this video up. But that's the aspect that I pointed out earlier, which you agreed with, is you need to do a little education on your part. Maybe you don't know where to search or something. Just get on there and start going and learning this stuff. It's like this. The reason I knew that our utility company was doing it is because in most areas, I'm sure in your area, they had to send out a letter to each homeowner that's in there stating that they have applied for this. And where you mentioned about that where they're not backing up and stuff like that, but it's like on my our utility bills, as Jeromy knows, he gets on that too. I've shown people the fees, and I've mentioned this before, but we've got a transmission fee. We got a new, they've got a fuel charge fee. They've got another fee. And I've watched these fees on the other bill before I got my solar on. It's dramatically changed since I got solar in my house. But when I was looking at them before I had the solar, I was waiting for the solar panels to go on. I kept watching my bill go up. And I'm like, each month, it may not be that much, but you look at it, because when I first got it in 2015, my average bill was, I think it was $265, if I remember right. By the time I got solar panels on my house, they were $305.
Yeah, that's the fees are another thing. People just are dealing with the usage increase, and you are. But when you take a look relatively over the last, say, 20 years, what our fees were 20 years ago versus what the fees are now, in Pennsylvania, we pay a solar requirements charge. Whether
Do
you have
you
solar
really?
or not, everybody is paying a fee that's called a solar requirements charge. So, yeah, you know, and it's gone up. So a lot of fees do, you know, so it's important. It's important to make sure you're telling people when you're giving them these estimates, you know, because if there are, like I dealt with a case one time, one of my customers called some cut rate, second side of the corner installer. I don't even know if they were certified, but they came out and told him, oh yeah, we can do this for half the cost. And you're going to, he said, you have plenty of room on your roof. You're going to make more than 100%. When we had them calculated at like 60% with using the whole roof, you know.
For the roof, right.
And I tried telling the guy, I said, listen, sometimes things sound too good to be true.
Right.
Just think about that. Like,
Right.
you know, we're given a price match guarantee. We have all these guarantees. We use top-notch equipment. Like, you know, it's important to understand that someone down the road may overpromise, but we don't overpromise. But it's also important to state that we underestimate. We normally, in most cases, the numbers we calculate are an underestimation.
Mm-hmm.
Usually they're going to produce more power than what we're saying they're going to.
Yeah. It's like one of the it's like one of the right. It's like one of the commercial jobs that I have that I'm still working on, and you know, and by the way, Jeromy, I sent some information out to them, but one of the commercial jobs I got right now, I didn't even, at the time, this back when, right after Austin, where Jason said, if you can just give me the average bill and stuff, I didn't, you know, the average bill and stuff like that, I put it in, and Scott, we only got them at 59%, but if you come into a business, you know, commercial business or anything, and you can cut their utility in half. And the turnaround rate on this one right now is 5.7 years. So the ROI on it is phenomenal. And the overall savings, I believe, was going to end up being $3 million savings at 59%. But the thing is, I didn't have their bill. And I've sent out a thing to the CFO now because they have a new CFO, because the other guy that I was trying to get with, he would never get back with me. So what I'm doing now, and they've got plenty of room to go 100%. Well, the design that I got from Jason and them is a ground mount, and they still have plenty of room to do. And like I said, at 59%, they're looking at saving $3 million.
I've never seen a business or commercial proposal that isn't a substantial savings. That's what, you know, it's really, I tell people all the time too, again, we're not salesmen, we're just educators. And
right,
we
exactly.
People and let them know that this is available.
Mm-hmm.
I'm so excited. Something that's, I think, would be smart for everyone to think about is, you know, I'm going to be applying for incorporation here soon for my little sunny side of solar that I use, and I own the website now. I have a Facebook page, so I'm going to apply for incorporation, become an LLC, and then I'm going to join the Chamber of Commerce.
Yeah.
And when you join a Chamber of Commerce, that can really do huge things for anybody looking to get into the commercial solar industry, because it immediately gives you a connection to every local business in that community. So that's, just for people to think about. It's
and to let you know, Scott, I am in my local Chamber of Commerce. I joined last January here.
Oh, great.
And they have, usually every other month, they have what's called a before hours meet and greet. And they have an after hours meet and greet. And what you're doing is the businesses there are just expecting you to walk up, talk with the people, hand them business cards, and you get their business cards. And we haven't had one, Jeromy, we haven't had one in the last 4 months? They haven't had one.
At least 3 months.
Yeah.
3 to 4 months.
I've gotten some good connections from people there. And I actually just grabbed a stack of the business cards that I've gotten from them to where I can personally now go out and visit with the people, because it's, and honestly, to let you know, when the one thing that I do to let you know, and I'm sure you do too, but as I mentioned it, like in the phone script or personal script, is I walk up and I say, hello, my name is Lane Johnson. And they go, hi, I'm so-and-so. And I say, what business are you with? I don't go right into my talk about who I am. I
Find out about them and theirs.
I get their information. I ask them, I said, do you have a business card? Yeah, sure. And I get their business card before I even hand them mine. And I look and I get their name and I start talking to them. I said, well, what do you do? You know, or how long have you been? And once they realize that you are interested in them, then all of a sudden the conversation gets to the point where you stop and they go, well, what do you do? Well, I deal with solar. What?
That's my favorite personal pickup line for residential deals is just, you know, everywhere I go, it's, you know, how are you doing? You ask them, you know, how are you doing? Because almost everyone instinctively is going to say, I'm good. How are you?
I'm good. Yep.
As long as they ask you that, they're open. Because then it's, well, I'm doing great. Because I'll tell you, I just started working in the solar industry, and I'm having so much fun. And then just stop.
Let me tell you something.
Why? Tell me more about it. You know, do it.
My wife hates when I go to the store where they're like that. I was a couple months ago. I was at a Walmart and I'm standing there and I'm looking at paints and stuff. And one of the associates come up, may I help you? Yeah, I'm looking for this. And we started talking and this and that. And my wife's standing there and we started talking and she goes, I said, how's your day going? Oh man, I'm ready. You know, like you said, I'm ready to get out of here and stuff. Man, I understand. It's been a busy day. What do you do? Oh, it's on. I started talking. Really? Do you have a business card? And I said, I sure do. You know, and my wife looked at me and she goes, I'm going over there.
Hey, but you know, the Chamber of Commerce is good. And you know, one more, I gotta wrap this up here, but I do want to throw more things out I did. Look for local environmental organizations, associations, clubs. I joined this. It's based out of Pittsburgh. I'm about an hour and a half from Pittsburgh, and there's an organization down there called the Green Builders Alliance, and it's almost like a Chamber of Commerce for environmental organizations based out of Pittsburgh and the surrounding area. It was like $30 for a membership, and it's nice. I can now. That's one more accreditation that I have to say, you know, I'm a member of the Green Builders Alliance. But they did a meet and greet down in Pittsburgh that I attended with Pittsburgh's Chief Resilience Officer. That's a term, if you haven't heard, you may start to hear if you're going into the commercial industry. And a Chief Resilience Officer can either be for a city or a business, and they're the ones that handle a lot of their sustainability projects, you know, reduction for like utility usage and things like that. So they were having a meet and greet in Pittsburgh for this Chief Resilience Officer, and I thought, okay, I signed up. It was like $10. I went down. The guy walks in, and I thought the name sounded familiar. His name's Grant Urban. I walk in, he walks in the room. Here it just so happens to be my older brother George's old college roommate that, you know, he was like a best man in his wedding. I've hung out with the guy several times. You know, next thing you know, like me and this guy are sitting up here kicking back, talking about old days, and we stop and look, and the whole room's just sitting there waiting for the meeting to start because we carried over 10 minutes in our little conversation. You know, and regardless, now I have an open door to where he said, Scott, whenever you're ready, you can bring in GeoStellar. I'll talk to them. I'll bring in the mayor of Pittsburgh, and we'll see what we can do here as a citywide cooperation. So that's something that, you know, I'm going to follow up with soon. Right. But, yeah, you know, just the more you reach, the more you'll grab a hold of. Don't stop looking, researching.
And I appreciate you being on tonight because, I mean, there's a couple things I wrote down that dawned on me. I'm like, I didn't even think about that. And I'm like, geez, why didn't I think about that? One thing that I noticed, you had mentioned the land that you can't do nothing with. See, down here to the south east of us, they have the coal plants, the open mining coal plants. And the reclamation of them, you can't do nothing with them.
Yeah. Oh, there's big.
And I just attended.
I was just going to say, I just attended that Climate Reality Project training down in Pittsburgh.
Right, right.
By Outdoor, and it was a really nice time. Really, really good thing, positive. I recommend. I made so many good connections down there. I've already had 10 more requests for proposals since last week.
Right.
Just but yeah, Western PA is really the originator of the coal industry.
Right.
And we have that, so much going on all along the West Coast. There's all these old coal plants that are now starting to shut down, and then it's hard enough to get those companies to tear down the buildings and, properly take care of the land. And usually they don't. And then, you end up left over with a piece of land that can't be done. You can't build any living type of building there for someone to live or work,
Well, it's like down here, the reclamation's there, but as you stated, there's certain restrictions for it. But yeah, it's land, and I actually just looked at an article I had when I was going through my files of land that can't be used, but it can be used for solar. And along the lines that you were mentioning, the community solar, whether it's through GeoStellar or them, do you know what I'm saying, or does solar farm just to be able to reach the utility companies? Is that what you're looking at? Because we don't have the community solar here in Texas, but what aspect are you dealing with up there in Pennsylvania that it's your facing?
It wouldn't be a community solar project.
Right. It would be
actually, I'm very excited. I just got my first lead from New York that I hope to start a community solar project.
Right. But that's what I was asking.
Yeah. And the idea here is, I guess it's going to be more either what will happen is either the borough itself or through the Chamber of Commerce, one of the more prominent businesses in the community will actually either lease or buy the land from the old manufacturer. The old train manufacturer still owns that property. They were called Community Industries. And it's been a struggle to get them to do anything with that property, period. So to be able to come to them and present a solution that, hey, I have someone that'll pay you for that. I mean, they're paying taxes on that property still.
Right, exactly.
It's a liability to them. They would probably be completely open to hearing about that. Mm-hmm. So, it has to be, more of this person's taking over the project or that.
Right, I understand, yeah.
Really, we're going to put up a solar farm and sell that to the town. It doesn't really work that way here yet without community solar available. Right.
I
wish it was, because it would be a really good opportunity.
Oh, yeah.
But in the same sense, not only, think, like if I can put up a solar farm in the middle of Greenville, it just would be volume, it would bring a lot of attention to the city. I actually have, 4 more large businesses in that borough that are also looking into projects. So I really have an opportunity to make a statement out of one small little community making a very huge impact.
Yeah.
So the borough likes the idea that, hey, that might actually start attracting new businesses, or, it'll help the local economy.
Right.
So what, those things are good. But anywhere of that there's a like that's not usable, that's just sitting there. Go to that local city borough building and see what you can find out about it.
And I appreciate that, because I was a surveyor back in the day, and there at this time right now, but even to this day they're still doing it, but there are 4 or 5 coal mining operations going on. Of course, they've died down some and stuff like that for the utilities going on. But that is a great aspect, because actually some of the mining facilities that are here, Scott, and I appreciate you bringing this up, but they are producing electricity for a utility out of Dallas and for AEP SWEPCO in this area. The local, but because I think they have 2 plants here, and then there's another 2 or 3 plants, one to the east, one to the south, that are producing electricity for the utilities up in the Dallas area. So I appreciate you bringing that up, because now that gives me an opportunity to reach out to these possible utilities with this land that they have, which I believe they purchased or leased for so many years because from the owners. And it gives me an opportunity to come to them and say, hey, this land is sitting there doing nothing for you. Why don't you do this? And it will help you, as you mentioned, meet your renewable energy quotas that you have to have if you put the farms on this land that can't be done for nothing, that you're paying tax on. Because down here, a lot of times they came through, and I don't even know if they leased it. I think they had to buy the land in some of the Texas areas. And so it might be an opportunity to come in and say, hey, look, once you put a solar farm up, as coal is starting to diminish, but you can still run this through your plant
and
to
and
run.
understand too, if they ask, I mean, because that's a lot of kickback. Why don't have the money? There are investors willing to come in and take these projects on. There
Right.
are people right now with money willing to dump at these projects because they look so viable. So
Yeah,
don't
yeah.
let that stop you. If someone
Nuh-uh.
brings that up, just say,
Right.
listen, we'll bring financing to the table for you. We don't, we take care of all the options. You just have to
Right.
look at the options.
We just need to get everything connected and see where we can go from there. Buddy, I appreciate it so much. You've taught me tonight and opened up my mind to things that I thought about a while back and hadn't thought about.
Hey, everybody should do that every now and then, and this is a great forum. I love that you do this, Lane. Aside from the regular Tuesday calls we do, but just talking to anyone, maybe it's your sponsor, call them up. The more you talk to people, the more not only ideas you'll get, but inspired you'll get.
Well, like my sponsor's Rob.
Good, harass him. He needs it.
Yeah. No, but the amazing thing is like we're talking about here, and then we'll end it up. The amazing thing is like Jennifer and some of the other five. Jeremy's got to go. Bye, Jeromy.
See, Jeromy.
Yeah, I'm getting ready to get off here. The amazing thing is, from some of them, Jennifer and Todd and them, they have posted stuff up in links that I've gone to. I was like, cool, I didn't know that, and I've copied it and gone and looked at it and went, wow, and that's the thing. You can learn something new every day.
We can all learn from each other.
Yeah, and I really appreciate you because I had thought about the coal stuff plants before. And then it's weird because I just read in my envelope an article says lands that aren't usable can be used for solar. And now you mentioned that, and I'm like, man, wow.
Perfect.
And that's why I asked you, how are you going about setting, how to approach them, because I haven't come across that in what way. Now
it was so funny because in all honesty, I had always, since I've started in the solar industry, have dreamt of buying that plot of land. I drive past it so often. My family still lives in Greenville. I drive past it all the time, and I've always thought, wow, that would be perfect to put up a solar farm here.
Solar farm.
The vice president of the Chamber of Commerce husband's calling me, and it just kind of went from there. And now, I'm pushing.
That's like just to the north of me, about 2 miles. They just put in a new 5-lane road, an outer loop that's running. And I drive down there, take my grandkids to school. About a week ago, I was taking them to school, and I'm driving down, and there's the wooded areas, and then there's wide open stuff. I'm like, oh, that's perfect for a solar farm. Oh, that's great for a solar farm.
Yeah.
All right, Scott. Hey, I appreciate it so much, and thank you for being on. And this is going to be a great one to post up, and I'm actually going to go back through it myself and watch it again. But thank you for being on, buddy. I really appreciate it.
Hey, have a good night.
Okay, thank you, and have a good evening, bud. Bye-bye.